Welcome everybody to Relationship Fun and Games.
And Fights Clean, Sex Dirty TV.
And we are here on episode 7, how to keep the fights clean after.
Yes, and this is season 4, the season of play. It's summertime, time to have fun, right? So we're going to have a little fun tonight with what to do after an argument, so it's not so serious and significant. But before we get into the topic tonight, we want to introduce you to our awesome interviewees that we're so excited to have them join us.
Welcome, Kevin and Lauren. Great to see you guys.
Hey guys.
Yeah, Raj, we want everyone else to be able to see them too. Go ahead and show their bio page here. You know, Kevin Kurgansky, he is known as the breakup doctor, and it is amazing how wise this guy is. When you see his photo in a moment, you'll see, you know, these guys are youngins. They're in their 20s, and they are absolutely, you know, they have the wisdom for more than people more than twice their age. I'm always blown away whenever I speak with them. You know, Kevin, he is an author and a speaker, and really making a difference for couples and individuals in the world, especially in that tender time in a breakup. And Lauren, just her feminine empowerment that she does out there in the world. You know, I know myself personally, I've been working on softening. I can be a bit of a task-oriented badass. And Lauren is in the realm of, and even just being with her, around her, can really help me soften into my feminine. She's a stand for women and men as well, but specifically focusing on women expressing themselves and really just helping them to call more love into their life.
I love this statement that Kevin and Lauren gave us, that together they've created a life partnered in possibility. That's awesome. And they're committed to playing the relationship game to the fullest and leaning into choosing each other. And this is especially important even in the face of conflict.
Yes, choosing, leaning in, shifting out of, I don't need this shit, to, no, this is ours. This is what we have to deal with. And we're going to make it awesome because we're committed to having an extraordinary life, an extraordinary relationship. And that's who I know the two of them to be. But let's let them let us know a little bit about them. Do you guys want to let us know anything else about whether it be your work or how you met or your philosophy for what keeps you two so, oh, you're just like, you're on the couch cuddling in there. I just want to say cuddly because I just want to like kind of crawl up and jump in there with you guys. It's good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. It's good to be here. Yeah, it helps to be really, really attracted to each other, I think.
That does help.
Yeah, a lot.
How did we meet?
You want to tell us?
Sure. So I think it was about a year ago. This was 2015. And I was entering into the internet marketing scene. I'd built a couple businesses, and they were all local. And I wanted to get online. I started reaching out to people who I knew in the relationship space because that's the industry that I was entering into for my life coaching. And I was still really new. And so I went into this mastermind group and I just started randomly contacting all these people that I knew that were in the relationship space. And I found Kevin, and I reached out. I said, hey, you don't know me, but I've heard about you. We've got some mutual friends, and I was wondering if maybe one day we could have a Skype chat and talk about the industry. I've got some questions. I said, would you be up for that? And what did you say?
Yeah, better way of describing it. I was on a road trip with Dimitri, and this was shortly after, I mean, not too shortly. I was road tripping at the time with one of my best friends, and I'm sitting in the back of a Mustang convertible on like a 20-hour drive, and I'm like, yeah, I don't really have a time for like a business chat, but I do have a lot of time to kill, so I'm going to start flirting with you and just getting to know you, and got her number. And
there's always time for flirting, right, Kevin?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm busy. I'm not crazy.
And we started texting. We would probably chat once every 2 to 3 weeks just to kind of check in. We had no clue what was going on. We were just like, hey, you're cute. I'll flirt with you. And then just randomly came up about 5 months later that I was taking a trip out to San Diego because I was living in Atlanta at this time, and we're in San Diego now. And I visited San Diego, and I went and saw him on the second day here, and then the rest was history.
And now you live in San Diego as well. Another addition to the wonderful community down there.
I do.
Can you tell us just a little bit about how you came to do this work and What's it like? You're both doing work in the similar area, right? How is it working either together or in the same field? Generally
Similar
speaking.
field.
Well, I'll start with me. So I started out in dating and relationship coaching last year, and my business has changed quite a lot, to the point where I've gotten to feminine power and really living into owning your truth and softening as a feminine woman and doing life and business as a powerful feminine woman. And so there's a small element of relationships in that, even though my the whole thing isn't really focused primarily on relationships as much as it used to be. So yeah, that's where I'm at with mine. What about you?
I have a really I learn a lot from this, and I teach from that place. But I try to create a healthy separation between work and relationship, which I hadn't really done before, and it would just bleed all over. So it tends to, yeah, I tend to compartmentalize it, except for like the learnings and lessons and stuff. So yeah, it's fun. It's fun being able to be professionally enriched through every personal challenge.
Awesome. Well, we really enjoyed hanging out with you guys at Gabby's birthday party. What was that, just a week ago?
That was 2 weeks ago, yeah.
And really nice being in your presence. And Kevin, I want that picture.
And just to see the two of you together, we get to see you now, and this is why we like to have couples on the show. Is that it's just there's something about the dynamic between the two, and you can have an expert talk about tips until the cows come home, but until you see two people together sharing and interacting, it's a different way of communicating, through modeling and interaction between a couple. So thanks for being here, you guys.
Okay, great. Well, welcome. And just for everyone that's watching or anyone who comes later and watches the replay, just a little bit about how the show is going to go tonight. Around top of the hour, 6:10, we're going to open it up so that you can join the show. We'll show you how to do that in just a second. Before we get into some of those details, you may or may not know that we break our content into how to keep the fights clean and how to keep the sex dirty.
Thus the halo and the devil horns, because we want to help couples know when to be naughty and when to be nice. Way too many people are reserving their nastiness for just like the day-to-day interactions, and we want to make sure that nastiness, the good kind of nastiness, not the bad kind of nastiness, is applied in the appropriate place at the appropriate time. So it's keeping the fights clean and the sex dirty. And we also want you to be able to find the tips that apply to exactly what's going on in your relationship right now. So before, as it starts, during, and after, because what you're going to do well beforehand is very different than what you're going to do in the middle of it or even after. And then again, as Raj was saying, tonight we're going to be talking about how to keep the fights clean after, what to do after an argument. And if you join the show live, then you'll also get a copy of our cheat sheet of how to keep the fights clean and the sex dirty. And it's some of our top tips, I think 2 per category, and it meets, it gives it to you in one sentence. So just at a little glance, you're stressed, you're in an argument, you want to, have a quick reference of what to do. I keep all sorts of flashcards on my refrigerator of quick references. What do I do? An argument's coming on. And this cheat sheet can be a great tool for that. You can even print it, put it in your wallet. So if you stay and join us live, you can not only get your questions asked specifically, but you'll also get a copy of this cheat sheet.
And so we'll let you know when that join the Google Hangout button below the video player goes live, and you might need to refresh your browser at that time if it's not if you're not able to jump right in with us. So let's
dive on in. Yes, tonight's topic is keeping the fights clean after, right? So tonight, this is all about, this is a ninja move, and this is really important of when to apply this move. Oh, we didn't give them the tips that they're pointing out for this topic. I'm so sorry. If this particular topic, I wanted to mention other resources. You know, tonight we're diving into our particular tip, this ninja move I was just talking about, which we'll get to in a moment. But if that topic of keeping the fights clean after is of critical importance to you, then you can look at the past 3 seasons. And we had Brian Franklin and Jennifer Russell on season 1, Morgan Dermage and Cher Harwash in season 2, and Ninja Moves for Post Nastiness with Kevin and Devorah Stimson. And I bet, Kevin, you know those 2, don't you?
Yeah.
Probably know all of these people on this list. That's great. And of course, you can always look on our blogs for this symbol of how to keep the fights clean after.
Yeah, and there's a slight typo on the slide here. It should say fights clean after. Okay.
Oh, you got the logo changed at the top. Sorry about that. So if that topic of after you've had an argument, in fact, we were at a party and someone came up to us and said, I'm so glad you organized your content that way. I was in an argument. I pulled myself out of it. I knew we were going nowhere fast, and I went to your website, and I was specifically looking for what to do in the middle of an argument. So you can do that as well. If you've just had an argument, go ahead and check out the website for those past episodes or past blogs.
Yeah, and it's been just so fun and just so educational for us to interview these experts in these different areas, and you really don't want to miss what they have to say. Everyone has an amazing tip or tool that will just totally up-level your relationship in any of these areas.
Yeah, we have very nice evenings after the shows, don't we?
We do. We actually pulled out a tip that we got from one of our, Sex Dirty As It Starts?
Mm-hmm. With who?
Adam?
Yeah.
Adam and Sandy, and that was called Emergency Sex.
Yeah, so that's a different topic. Different topic. But go back and look at Adam and Sandy's talk if you want to know about emergency sex.
That's a good one.
The alarms are going off. But tonight, again, it's after the argument. And I know we're laughing, and I know if you've had an argument, you know, it might even be tender right now. Maybe it's a little difficult to be so light and jovial. And, you know, we don't mean to be silly. We're just meaning to bring some lightheartedness, because transformation and growth and development, it doesn't have to be so significant. And a little lightheartedness, a little laughter can be tremendously healing and even kind of help you wiggle through some of those moments of tension. So without further ado, let's tell you about our tip of the week, which is what can I do caress. Now, Raj, you're going to want to show the video on this one. Take it off the slide here. Well, go ahead, show them the next slide, and then we'll show the video, because this is a move that we're going to want to model. You're going to want to see this one.
And if you want to check out this tip, it's about a 3 to 5 minute video. Just our moderator will put in this link in the chat, so you can check that out.
Yeah, you can even save that link, and if you ever need it in the future, you know, just pull out that reminder. So first, let's talk about when to use it, because it's really important that you don't use it too soon. This is not to be done in the middle of an argument. Remember, we talked about when to apply the tips. This is to be done after the argument. So if someone is still totally pissed, it's not the time to do this. But this is, you know, it's when the argument itself is over, but there's still some what we call rift residue. Sometimes we call it problem plaque, right? So the blow up is past, but there's still some tension. But it's not like a super sensitive nerve in the moment.
Yeah, and you all know what that feels like, right? You're kind of over the explosiveness of it, but there's still that lack of intimacy between you and your partner, and mostly we would like to move beyond that. Sometimes we like to kind of stick in it a little bit and suffer, but
hopefully not too long.
Often we don't have any tools to actually move past it. This is a freaking total ninja trick tool that if you try it, it totally connects you and eliminates that rift residue in about, what, 15 seconds?
Yeah, 15 seconds or less. Now, here's the thing. You have to be willing to give up being right? This is about being with people, not about being right or wrong or anything like that to resolve the argument. It's really about, you know, creating some physical touch, because, you know, I'm sure Kevin and Lauren, you can speak to this as well, that there's a lot of science behind the impact of physical touch. The sound of your voice, you know, just creating a sense of warmth and comfort, peace, sincerity, and really you're communicating in just these 15 seconds your sense of commitment, your care for each other, and your connection. And I put here on this slide to remind you that the 2 core elements, and this is based on John Gottman and his, you know, he's been doing research for over 40 years on relationships. And he recently came out and said the two key elements in a healthy relationship are commitment and care. And this tip really shows the commitment and care. It's essentially shorthand. Sometimes when you're mad or you're upset, your brain isn't, communicating. You're coming from the lower brain, right? And there's just instinct, and you're just going, and it's fight or flight. And this is, really giving you a way to do something with very few words that's going to communicate a whole lot. And what it's communicating is essentially saying, I care more about you and our relationship than I do about being right in this moment. And what I want most is love and peace between us.
Yeah, and as I mentioned earlier, it's so nice to actually have a go-to tool, because often we're right on that verge of like, I want to get over this thing, I want to stop being right, I want to be intimate with my partner again, I'd like to have a nice evening, maybe I'd like to enjoy my vacation with my partner. And this tool allows you to do what we say, get off it, give up being right, and reestablish this connection and care with each other.
Yeah, so as I said before, you might feel wronged in the moment, you might feel that they did this and then they said that, and I'd apologize if they did this, but you got to just be able to let all of that go. And keep in mind that people need your love the most when they deserve it the least. So Raj, why don't you put it on video and let's show them this ninja move here.
Okay, so we'll have to pretend that we're in an argument.
Okay, fighting. All right, let's just
want to talk to you.
move the chair here. Okay, so let's pretend you're mad and you're washing the dishes.
Don't tell me what to do.
Yeah, but just so yeah, change it. Make a video so they can see us.
Okay, I'm doing something.
Okay, so Raj is standing there doing the dishes or whatever it is, and I kind of come in. Don't surprise them. Make sure they know that you're there. I may kind of put my hands here, and I'll put one hand around on his belly and one up here on his chest, and I'll kind of nuzzle. The nuzzle's important.
Nuzzle, like right there, I'm totally...
Right? There's no words yet, just nuzzling, just letting him relax, and you can just feel my commitment. I'm using my warmth of my body, and he just knows that I care. This is why you can't come in too soon.
Maybe press a little less hard.
Oh, you're getting coaching. Press a little less hard. Get a bit of a squeeze. And you nuzzle, and you whisper in his ear. And what I whispered is, what can I do? What can I do? Just those 4 little words. It's not I'm sorry. It's not you were right. When you say, what can I do, you're essentially saying, I care about our relationship. I'm committed to getting through this to the other side. Tell me, what can I do? And then, of course, you want to make sure you actually do what they ask. Now, it doesn't mean you're a doormat, you lay down for everything, and if they turn around and snap at you. So it's not that this is foolproof, but it really is shocking how many times, and this isn't just with Raj, I've tried this with many people and asked them to model it when I'm with a couple and they're fighting, or if they've come to see me and they've had a fight the last, recently, and there's some rift residue, and I have them try this, and usually, at least 8 times out of 10, the person absolutely melts. Nothing is sure in a relationship, but this one really stacks the cards in your favor.
Now, one thing you want to do is practice a little bit before the actual incident happens, because you want to dial it in a little bit. Right?
And let your beloved know what you're doing, so you can practice. Hey, next time we're in an argument, I'd like to try this move. You want to try it now and tell me what feels best to you?
Right, you got to get the nuzzle right.
Yeah, they might not like nuzzling. Raj has a sensitive neck. Sometimes if I nuzzle, I might get like a little squeeze like this, but I know, okay, that's not exactly what he wants right now.
So before we do the action option, let's hear from Kevin and Lauren and see if they have anything they want to add to this, or anything that they know about, chemistry, brain science, those sorts of things.
Physicality, any or a time where you've seen this, how we'll get to your tips in just a moment. We've got our action option. But yeah, your thoughts on this one so far?
She does this sometimes.
I do this too.
Yeah.
She does that naturally? She does the what can I do caress?
Yeah. She'll like snuggle me and then whisper all sweetly. Kind of hard to resist.
Is there anything particular you like to hear whispered? Is it usually the same thing, or and does it work for you? Like you're smiling now, but because sometimes for us we'll be like kind of tense and mad, and it just melts things, you know? What's your reaction when she comes in and does that?
It helps me melt. Like, it's a step forward in the right direction. For me, I'm very, like, I'm very analytical, or, like, I want to resolve the thing. And so, to me, it's forward progress. It doesn't necessarily, for me, it doesn't truly melt until a lesson from it has been extracted. But it's like, it melts me in the sense that, like, I drop my resistance, and then I know that there's an opening for us to have that conversation later.
Yeah,
That's great.
That's so great. Dropping the resistance and creating an opening for what's next.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
What were you?
Important because of what you guys kind of said before, is that the first time I did this, it felt good to him, but over time, I was able to figure out what he really, really loved, to the point where he almost starts giggling when I do it now.
You're refining it.
Yeah, exactly. For him specifically, I'll come up and I'll cuddle next to him, and I'll start like stroking his hair, and I will smother the side of his face with kisses and just like smother him in a way that would.
I just have to say, when you said smother his face with kisses, he went out this way. He's like, it wasn't even like a nod like this. It was a full like this kind of nod. That was great.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I'm the complete opposite. Like I don't want that when I'm kind of feeling kind of raw. There's like a different way to do it, which I think we're still figuring out. But it brings me a lot of joy to know that I can come up to him and connect with him in this way. So yeah, there's a way of learning of how to approach your partner, I guess. That was interesting.
Yeah, and actually, I think, Kevin, the first time we ever met you was the 4 or 5 years ago at Evan Pagan and Annie Lala's Intimacy Intensive, where they taught us about the soothing mantra. And that's more for like during the argument, but there's a lot of similarities, you know, of being able to find out in advance with your beloved, like, what is the thing to say or do? What are the words? How do you want them to touch you? And it's amazing, even if you've coached them, it doesn't feel like it's orchestrated. It's like this magic secret handshake of some sort that kind of unlocks the resistance and allows you to uncurl your toes from being right and remember, oh, that's right, we love each other.
Yeah, it also provides that pathway to, I don't remember how you put it, but to actually dig in a little deeper and resolve the thing that caused the argument. You can't really do that when you're on it and trying to be right. So it paves the way to actually get something out of the argument. We actually have a tool for after called Argument Even Better Ifing, and Argument EBI, and it's about evaluating the argument and looking. We actually have a whole process around that. You can find that in one of our blogs.
There's 5 questions. If you're interested in that one, just go to the website and search for, go to the blogs and search for, even if you just search for EBI, it'll come up. But it's an argument even better ifing. Yeah. Super fun. Okay, so let's look at the action option, and then I know we've got 7 different suggestions from Kevin and Lauren that we want to get to. But if you've watched the show before, you know every time we give you a tip, we'd like to give you an action option, your mission or your action option, should you choose to accept it. Little Mission Impossible. Dun, 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 dun. Bring some fun to this, like, okay, my relationship mission. Let's see. Yes, it's only an option. It's up to you. You can just go, oh, that's a great idea, and let it go in one ear and out the next, but you can take some action here too.
Okay, so step 1, after an argument, when the intensity has dissipated, and that's very critical. It's like you don't want to go up to like a angry animal and touch it, right? And you want to go to your beloved, stand behind them and nuzzle them gently, and as Lauren and Kevin were pointing out, you want to experiment with what works and what doesn't, right? Kissing on Kevin's face from Lauren is a melter, and Lauren's still trying to figure out what
works. Smothers with kisses, yes, a whole bunch, yes. Oh, she's modeling, very nice.
And in our case, it's gentle nuzzle in the neck, and then reach one hand around and put a hand on the heart and belly.
I'm sorry.
What?
I just had a dirty mind. I'm like, that's a different topic.
Okay. That might work.
It's a different kind of reach around.
We all know where you're going with that.
I'm blushing now. Okay. All right, good. Oh, good. Step 2, take a deep cleansing breath.
Now, is that for both people or what?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. More deep breaths you can take, the better.
Okay, and then whispering in their ear softly and sincerely. This is really important that it's authentic, not just like, hey, can we get over this shit? Like, what can I do? That's not really the recipe we're looking for here.
And then step 4, you want to...
I was just noticing Lauren whispering something into Kevin's ear. I don't know if they were practicing.
Yeah, but you're screen sharing. They can't see that. Yeah, they're modeling it.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's true. Raj said, whisper in their ears softly, sincerely, and Lauren was just taking the coaching. Way to put that into action, Lauren.
Or some other.
And step 4, though, listen with curiosity, and there's that care and commitment, the 2 most important things in a relationship, care and commitment. And then just let it be okay. If that they express that there's some residue angst, you know, and they are still upset, that's okay. And if necessary, you might even want to ask again. And
then finally, do everything in your power to do the thing that your beloved requested, right? We want to fulfill on that thing.
And can I say something about that?
Sure. I was going to share about that when we went shopping. Can I share about that?
I don't know what it is, but go ahead.
Okay. Well, you go ahead first, and then I'll share.
Okay. Well, just in terms of doing everything that your beloved, everything in your power that your beloved has asked. Now, you don't want to, you know, be a doormat and everything they say you do. That's not what we're talking about here. So if you're, you know, doubts are coming up about this particular part of the tip, you know, relax there. This is really more about being generous. You know, it's that care that we're talking about in your relationship. And so early on, we talk about in the Fights Clean Before, we talk about context and ask people to find what is winning. So winning is not you getting your way or them getting their way. You know, winning is the 2 of you winning together. And that means making your beloved happy. So you want them to have what they want. So when they're telling you what they want, it shouldn't be like a, well, I'm not giving them what they want because they don't give me what I want. It's, oh, great, thank you, you've given me some more information. And if you both, you know, kind of continue to even one-up each other on your generosity and goodness with each other, it's contagious. Okay, are we putting these on?
So one time when this happened, and Gabby doesn't like me to share this sometimes. It's not like she likes to shop all the time, but she said, I want to go shopping. And we went downtown when I said, what can we do?
Oh, this was after the fight. Yeah, we had a fight, and he said, what do you want to do? And I said, go shopping. Really, I wanted to stroll down State Street. Yeah. But we went down State Street.
And we got our monster hats.
And we went into this costume shop, and we said, okay, next time we get into a big fight, if we turn into monsters, we have to wear our monster hats. So it's hard to take each other a little seriously. So if the tension is still too thick, then go ahead, get your monster hats, bring those out, and hopefully that can loosen things up a little bit.
Okay, awesome. So
all right. So that is our ninja move for the what can I do caress. And so try that out. As Lauren said, you know, find out what works specifically in your relationship. One of my favorite expressions is, how can I use and adapt this? It's not one size fits all, but really explore with it. It's about playing and having fun. So, you know, just, you know, give it a try and let us know how it goes. If you got your own ninja move, send us a message, send us a little video. We'd love to see what your what can I do caresses look like too.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Okay, so now we're going to dive into Lauren and Kevin's 7 tips. And the link is live now. So if you want to jump in with us, we'll probably mute you initially so that we can hear from Kevin and Lauren's brilliance. But we'll pull you into the conversation as we can. And also, if you have any questions, just throw them in the chat window.
And, you know, Kevin and Lauren, when they asked them what they wanted to talk about under this topic, and they sent me this list, and we had a call and talked about them, these 7 do's after an argument. And I'll turn this over to you guys in just one second, but I just wanted to acknowledge how great it was and perfectly in alignment with the work that we do here at Relationship Fun and Games, that it's the 7 do's after an argument, not the 7 don'ts. And you can find don'ts in here, but you know, we like to be proactive. We like to insert new things, not say it's so hard to not do something, right? but it's much easier to take your energy and to put something in to do it. So I really appreciate the proactive nature of what you guys are up to just in general. But yeah, take it away. Let us know about what you guys do.
Awesome. You might need to refresh the browser window if that button isn't getting you into the Hangout.
Not you guys, the rest of the audience, if they want to get on live.
I feel happy seeing you guys in monster costume. But I feel like it'd be pretty hard to keep being a monster when you're wearing one.
Kevin, could you speak up just a little bit? It's just a little hard to hear you.
I said I find it hard to imagine continuing to be a monster if you're wearing a monster costume. So
exactly the point. Exactly the point. Yeah. And did you show him, Raj, that it's in the toolkit? Yeah. Just check this out here. So this is our Fights Clean Sex Dirty toolkit. Oh, wait. We got to take the screen sharing off. Just one moment. So if you can see this here, this is the Fights Clean Sex Dirty toolkit. All sorts of fun things in there. Yellow flag to call a flag on the play,
sex videos,
steamy sex ed videos, you know, all kinds of fun things. So have your little toolkit, and we got our monster hats just sticking out of the top of that one.
we were hanging out. We had a party at the house the other day, and one of our friends was saying that we should start to clock in when we get into a fight, and just like clock in like at work, and then just feel bring consciousness to that. They're like, wow, tally your hours for the week. So it was
Hey, I wish couples would do that. Then it would, you know, make my point of being proactive. You know, like, as you know, we spend 3 hours once a month to look at our relationship and see how we're doing and talk about anything that needs to get talked about. Because really, if you total it up, if you don't do those kind of things, if you don't invest in your relationship, especially after a conflict, you're going to end up having another fight. And next thing you know, I mean, it is not unusual for a couple to have an hour of fighting a day. When you count morning, lunch, and dinner, you know, alone, not to mention some texts in the day, easy. 30 hours a month of fighting, who needs it?
Yeah, so happy to share some tips that we've gathered. These are hard-earned, hard-fought, hard-won, and sometimes hard to apply. But when we do, it works, and it makes all the challenges and conflict a lot easier to bear, overcome, and repattern. So the first tip is something that actually Lauren does really well, and I'm going to introduce it and then pass it off to her to talk about. But I just kind of called it emotional realignment journaling. And this is a super cool process. I taught this to one of my clients after Lauren shared it with me, and it's sort of based off the work by Byron Katie, but she's modified it to be even more intentional and proactive, which I'm just like marveling at the fact that I'm with somebody who can take a model like that and then make it even more proactive. So I'm super excited for her to share that.
Sure.
Yeah. So this one is what I really love to do, and I use it even beyond just conflict. Sometimes I use it when I'm having an upset within myself, or I'm seeing the world as a way that it's like not meeting my expectations, and I get upset about it. But mostly after our arguments, it helps me really cool down and really get a very universal perspective of what's actually going on, instead of being all raw and in my emotions and coming up with stories that may not actually be true. So this is called emotional realignment journaling. And I can't say that this is like something I just sat down and created one day. Like he said, this is influenced by the work. It's influenced by a couple of my other coach friends here in the community, one of them being Marcy Locke. She's amazing. But
yes.
The goal here is, what I do after the fight is I go in and I give myself some space, I do some breathing, and then I go right into my journal. And so this is a journaling exercise. And what I first ask myself, it's a series of questions. The first one is what is going on right now? So how am I feeling? What is the situation? And then I ask myself, what do I believe is happening right now? And so I'll write a little story of what I actually think is going on right now, whether I'm super emotionally charged or not. And then after that question, I'll take a little deep breath And then I'll ask myself, okay, aside from my emotions and what I actually believe is happening right now, what might actually be universally true? Without the added stories, without the added upset, how can I look at this as objectively as possible and ask myself what is universally true right here?
And Lauren, if I could just pause just right there for 1 second, I know you're going to be talking about nonviolent communication in a moment, and I just want to point out the similarity that between both those two. There's an important element of being able to observe just the facts, not your judgment. And I find that to be one of the hardest parts, is to really separate what's a fact from what's a judgment.
Right. So, that may take some time to start doing most effectively, but for me, when I first started doing this, I would really be as aware as I could of when I was writing something down that might be universally true, and I started feeling an emotion in my body again. And not to make my emotions wrong, it's just when I'm trying to look at the situation very objectively, sometimes that doesn't really deal with me inputting a charged emotion and saying, well, this is happening because I feel this way. It's what is actually happening without the charge of my rawness. So after I ask that, I then ask myself, how would I like to feel in this moment, regardless of what's going on? And the reason why I ask myself this is because I ultimately know that in each moment, I am the creator of my life. I am the creator of my the way that I feel, the way that I think, and the way that I do. And so I ask myself, how would I actually like to feel in this moment? And then after I write that down, the final question is, what do I need to think, feel, or create in order to feel this emotion? So this might be to look at the relationship, look at the actual fight that just happened, look at what my partner, Kevin, might need, look at what I might need, and look at it from the lens of how would I like to feel right now. And for me, if I'm going to be truly authentic with myself and the objectivity that I've identified, I want to feel love, and I want to feel connection, and I want to feel heard, and I want to hear my partner. And so after the what do I need to think, feel, or create in order to do that, it's probably been about 10 minutes. If I'm writing it down, it's been about 10 minutes, but if I run it through my head, because I've been doing it for so long, then it'll be pretty quick, pretty instant. And then after that, I usually feel like my trigger is completely gone. I might be able to come back up to Kevin and start to communicate with him again in more of a beautiful, unconditional love perspective.
Well, and Lauren, I love how at the end, it's not just how do I want to feel, but that you actually say, what do I need to think? It's like you're giving yourself a tangible map of what to do when you say, what do I need to, what was it, think? In order to feel that way, I need to
create. Like, what am I going to choose to think and feel or create in this moment?
Think, feel, or create.
Mm-hmm.
Those were the three. Awesome. Think, feel, and create. So it gives you like a little map of like, it's almost like you're kind of tying a knot on and holding on like, okay, I just need to do those three things and I'll be on my way back towards where I want to go.
Right, because if I sit in the feeling of the rawness and my upset, my analytical mind can interfere with what my heart actually wants, and then I can start going in really dumb, useless circles instead of trying to reach the point of unconditional love again.
Awesome. Awesome. Now we have 6 other juicy ones, and I know that's the realignment journaling is what you tend to do, and then Kevin, that you tend to do the second one, which we talked about, is maybe even being graduate level for some, but who knows? Maybe people are. I'm always blown away at how conscious and aware and responsible you are at your age. So, folks, when you're listening to this one, if you're at that level, bravo, and if you're not, take baby steps. But this is a good one.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for the intro on that. This one's really useful for me. It's something that I've probably started doing over the last 3 months. I maybe did some version of it before. I've never called it this, but I call it radical self-accountability reflection, or just radical responsibility. I think that's something I practice. But now, calling it the self-accountability thing has me become accountable to how I created the conditions for what occurred. So let's just apply this practically to a fight. And I'd still love to give maybe an example of how Lauren does it at some point, because it's more useful seeing it pragmatically. But so in my case with the radical accountability, so how that might look like is, let's say there's a big fight, something happens, I'm angry. Well, usually there's been anger had, and we've now separated, or in each other's individual space, and here I am with my mind. It's going crazy. I'm anxious. I'm angry. I'm frustrated. I'm confused. I'm usually thinking about my partner and making her wrong and judging her for the perceived wrongness that I think she enacted. And this exercise helps me get out of blame and shame and make wrong, and it allows me to reclaim responsibility for, even if her behavior is not excusable, even if it maybe got a little bit too nasty for my liking, the only way that I can begin to feel most empowered is if I stop and I ask myself, how did I create the conditions for that behavior to even take place in the first place? So if, let's say, there's a really strong fight with a lot of anger and, let's just say it gets nasty, I look at myself and I ask, how did I create the conditions for it to even get that bad? Did I violate a personal boundary? Did I not honor her request for space when I should have given her space and attempted to talk to someone who was still needing to regulate themselves? And so I look at it that way. And so then I usually come back and based on my journaling or just going through this imagination in my head, I'll say something like, hey, in the time and space apart, I've been thinking, and, although I still feel hurt and upset that X, Y, and Z happened, as I've sat with it more and reflected, I realized that I've reflected and been thinking about what did I create in order to even have this happen in the first place? And what I did was this, and that, and then I'll share. And that usually creates an opening for us to connect again, and that helps. Otherwise, I just criticize, and that kind of closes her and doesn't really take us anywhere. And so, in simple terms, I think Adam Gilad calls it taking 200% responsibility. It's a little dangerous, and I've had this pattern cause me to sometimes take too much responsibility in relationships. Both present and past relationships, but it's really useful because it's all I can really control is myself. So
great.
Amen.
Great. That's awesome, Kevin. And then I really just want to acknowledge you, as a fellow man in relationship, what it takes to take on that, that position of radical self-accountability. It's so much easier to blame the external than to look internally, and there's endless growth as men taking on that stance. And I totally get there's some danger there, not only exclusively looking there, but if you do that part, it goes a massive way, not only your personal development, but also the relationship's ability to develop and grow.
totally.
Awesome. I so love that. And of course, looking at this next one here, surefire. I love those words. It's pretty much guarantee, surefire expression of love. It's let it land.
Yeah, totally. And this is kind of like the loving caress you guys shared, right? That could be an example of something that Lauren will do for me, or it's just any kind of, a love language is kind of like a common modality that people look at and see relationship through. If you're not familiar with it, the 5 love languages, there's physical touch, words of affirmation, quality time, gifts, and then acts of service. And so if you know your partner's primary love language, or they know yours, it's just what is the quickest way to actually create love? And so I think the caress is a beautiful example of that. One thing that we do together, we're both words people and touch, and also quality time. So this kind of connects to the next one of returning to presence through being. sometimes we'll come back to each other and we'll have this either unspoken or sometimes spoken agreement of like, hey, can we just be with each other? Like, just without words, and just lay there and hold each other or touch or breathe together or anything that doesn't involve words, because sometimes the words bring us closer and sometimes the words actually create a bigger divide. And so we kind of have this agreement that we're just going to be together. And that's a surefire expression of love.
That's so powerful, that eye contact, just the presence and being. You know, we mentioned the 3-hour, relationship reset summit that Raj and I do monthly, and we start with an exercise where it is just, we set a timer for 2 minutes, and there's no words, and it's just looking at each other, and it's amazing what no words and deep eye contact can do. It can make you laugh, it can make you cry, it can make you uncomfortable, but it really will deepen the intimacy. They say the eyes are the windows into the soul, and they weren't joking.
It also gets you out of your ego and your survival strategies, and coming from that place. So love this. Awesome.
I want to.
Cool. So, I'm sorry, Lauren. Did you want to say something?
For the surefire expression of love, because I feel like we kind of skipped over that a little bit and went right to returning to presence of being. So one thing that I have always done since the beginning is handwritten letters, and it's important to know what your top love languages are together, but I find most joy in doing all the love languages. So you'll find Kevin and I like writing letters to each other. One time he started writing letters because he knew that's how I liked to express love. Coming back to each other. Wait, what are the other ones? There's acts of service. So I really, really enjoy making him breakfast and sometimes bringing it into bed for no reason at all. And I pretty much do that every time we have a fight, like the next morning. There's the quality time. I think we often go outside and we'll sit in the sunset. It's just, we really love to do all the love languages, especially after a fight. And one of them, like he said before, was handwritten letters for me. And then the one that I really love is the returning to presence through being. So just like sitting in bed and sitting there in that position. What's that position where I'm sitting on his lap but towards him?
Lotus.
Is that lotus?
I think so.
Sure is.
Yeah, I really, really love that position and sitting together and looking into each other's eyes and just embracing each other, kissing each other on the face, on the neck, and just, rubbing our hands around each other's bodies and just being there together.
That sounded pretty good to me. And on the note, though, of your written thank you notes, just wanted to tell you, Lauren, like Kevin wrote the best thank you note I've ever gotten. I still have it to this day. It's like 2 years ago. He ended up coming into town for a conference and spent the night at our house. And before he left this thank you note. It was just extraordinary. So it tickles me to know that he's with someone who loves thank you notes as well, that the two of you can express your love in that way. Is so great. Now, we have about 5 more minutes before we're going to wrap up the show and tell people what's coming next week, so we want to save a few minutes for that. And we've got 3 more here, so not to rush you, but what's good and right about this, we talked a little bit about nonviolent communication before, and I'm really excited about energy patterns. So you want to dive in there?
Yeah.
Any one of those, I mean?
Yeah, I'll be able to cover these 3 in less than 5 minutes. So I love this one. I don't know if I got this from you, Gabby, or from somebody else. You might know the source, but something I've started recently doing is taking on this perspective of this must mean something good about my partner, as well as what's good and right about this, which is the question that you have on the screen here. And so, and this is also overlap with some of the stuff I've been doing with circling and 2-3 and authentic relating, is seeing down to the values level of like, what value is this person fighting for, or like what need are they protecting right now. So if I react to the behavior and like the tonality with which they're doing it, it can often have me feeling triggered, versus, and then like make them wrong and think that we're like opponents and we're against each other and they're being hostile, versus like, wait, I love this human And if they're doing this, there's probably something that they're fighting for, and there's something good inherently about the thing they're fighting for. And so what's right about this? Like, what is that thing? And so it puts me into this like translator mode of like seeking the good. And this has been very recent practice for me, maybe the last month or so, or maybe month and a half, and it's been huge. And it connects actually very well to the next thing around NVC, nonviolent communication, which is basically all around the feelings and needs that we have. And so this is a really great.
I love that, Kevin. Actually, if I could just pause you there, I just wanted to acknowledge, because you made a bit of an assumption that a person's need is a good thing, which I love that. It's just a great foundational. There are 7 core human needs, which you may talk about those. But when you say what's good and right, you said you just assume that there's a need underneath them, and then when it's implied that need means something good about them. So just bravo, because we're human beings, and there are core human needs, and we're not, it is a good thing that we want those. It's a very natural thing. So go on with MVC, but I just wanted to compliment you on that.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'm not going to teach the whole model, but it's a great modality to practice a more compassionate form of communication. And how I learned about NVC was actually through a workshop I went to called Compassionate Communication, which first opened up my eyes to it, because I would hear about nonviolent communication. I'm like, oh, I don't need that. I'm not violent. I'm fine. And so once I thought of it as compassionate communication, that's when it opened up, and that's when I realized that, like, just embodying this deep level of compassion around what am I feeling and needing? What is this other human being feeling and needing? And it zaps past all the story making and the whole like meow, 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 meow. It's like, because the feeling and the need, we all have it, like, and underneath it we probably want the same thing, like connection, safety, security, whatever that may be. So we like to, and to help access that, I guess the question we can start is, what's the story I'm creating? What am I feeling? And then what am I needing? So I know some people have a harder time accessing the feelings and the needs right away. And so there's a big list of it in the NVC book and other places, but you can start with, what story am I creating? Well, I'm creating a story that they don't blink. You can use that to inverse that and then identify what I'm really needing is blank. And so you can start with the make wrong and the lack, if that helps, and then just reverse engineer that.
And I'd also just like to encourage the audience to expand their vocabulary of human needs anyways. Raj and I, in fact, we created a little memory device to practice remembering them. One's the like 14 emotions when needs are not being met is fatica pastavi, like fatigue, anger, we go through all of them. And then if you have a need that is being met, there's like 11 core positive emotions. And that one, our mnemonic is Gija Chipper. And then for the actual 7 needs is champs. Just to remember, if you can only remember what the human needs are, it can make such a difference. So if your beloved is upset or you're upset, identifying what is it that I need. Most often we just know that we're upset. And those are connection, honesty, and trust. The A stands for autonomy, a sense of choice and autonomy. The 3 P's are play, peace, and physical nurturing. And the M is for
mastery.
Is it for mastery? Meaning. Meaning. Yeah, is for meaning. We have those are the 7 core human needs.
Yeah, you can even use the process in conjunction with Lauren's journaling.
Yes.
And you can just do the process even on your own, identify the feelings that you're experiencing, like what's the observation, then what's the feelings, what's needs not being met. And then there's the last part around making a request, which is awesome. So, okay.
But Kevin, please let us know about these energy patterns here as well. Or Lauren, I know you guys are both familiar with these. Before we let people know how they can find out more about you or Relationship Fun and Games and what they're up to.
Yeah, totally. So this is awesome. I'm sad that this is like being squeezed in at the end, because this has probably been one of the most transformational things. There is a book on it that Gabby just posted the link to right there, so highly recommend buying this book and learning about it. basically what this does is it teaches us about the different ways that our nervous system regulates itself under stress. And really it's about survival patterns, not necessarily personality patterns. It's how do we regulate ourselves when we're dysregulated. And so there's 5 different patterns. Each person, when they're experiencing stress, need a different strategy and to get back into harmony. And so one of them is like the leavers, so they need to like physically leave the space and have alone time to kind of like recharge and re-regulate. That's what Lauren needs. I'm more of a merger, so I need connection, and I want to be with other in order to reground in the connection. And so that's in our relationship. It's been like a huge dichotomy and paradox of the thing I most want and need is the opposite of the thing she most wants and needs. And this frame has given us a whole lot of compassion around why that is, instead of making the other person wrong of like, you see how much I'm hurting, you see that I just like want this thing, why can't you give it to me? And so this has given us a wider lens to look at it. There's also other things like the endure pattern, the aggressive, rigid, and then the rigid. So the rigid would try to control, the aggressor would try to like challenge and like overpower, and then the endure would just kind of like endure and be like, oh, I'm just gonna like absorb all this pain and sit here, and this is like my way of showing how much I love. And so we have a primary and a secondary type, and it's super, super important. I imagine that any couple who's having really, really painful fights or hurtful arguments and how to heal after that, there's the energy patterns will give you a clue into what you need in order to heal from that. And so super, super useful and highly recommended.
Yeah, it's great. It's like another layer of the love languages, right? You know, you want to know what your love languages are, and you want to know what those energy patterns are as well.
Yeah, and
awesome.
I point this out. That
go ahead, Lauren.
When we learned this framework, it was through Brian Franklin, Jennifer Russell, and there was something that Brian said to me that I just want to reiterate about the 5 personality patterns, is that it doesn't mean when you identify which patterns you ultimately resort to, it doesn't mean that you are these patterns and that you can't work on them and heal them. It just means that this is the way you are currently expressing it based off of something that happened in your childhood, and that there are ways to work through it.
Absolutely. You're not stuck with that label. Thank you, Lauren, for making that point. So appreciate it.
Wonderful. You guys have so much information there. We could talk for hours on all that. It's so great.
And hopefully we will in the future. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, if you want to connect with Lauren or Kevin, you can connect with them directly on Facebook. They both said that they'd love to personally connect with anyone that's interested in that. And you can inquire in more depth about any of those 7 points or any other brilliant things that they know about relationship. If you want to learn more about what we have going on at Relationship Fun and Games, you can check us out at our website, relationshipfunandgames.com. And we just wanted to tell you a little bit about next week's episode, where we'll have Eva Clay and her partner, Christoph Jansen, where we'll be talking about how to keep the sex dirty after.
Yes, so this topic is what a waste, how to steer clear of ruining the post-orgasmic chill, right? You created all this good juju together. You don't want to just pop up and move on. You want to make sure that you're soaking in all of that great energy between the two of you. So in this topic, we're going to take a closer look at what to do afterward with Eva and Christoph, so that all of that energy and goodwill and your sexy time just keeps getting better and better and better and better. As Raj and I call it, BEST, best ever sexy time.
So we have some goodies for you if you're new to our audience. We have this relationship reset kit, and it's full of some of our top tips, tools, and techniques for keeping the fights clean and the sex dirty.
And broken down into nice, easy bite size. We'll send you our 4-emailed mini sequence of our best tips, our most popular tips. You have access to our shows for live, and we'll also send you our How to Keep the Fights Clean and Sex Dirty guidebook. which is about 16 pages with dozens of tips, and it's organized and laid out in a way makes it really easy for you to find what you're looking for.
And you can get that at this URL here, relationshipfunandgames.com. Get free gifts main, and our moderator will post that also in the comments window.
Yep, make it a link so it's easy to click.
We're super excited to tell you about our upcoming 6-week virtual course.
Yes, we start next Thursday, a week from tomorrow on the 14th. So this says 15 days, but it's actually, I think it's like 8 days now, something like that. But yes, if you join us, this is all about how to take your specific complaints and turn that into connection and contentment. So the very thing that's pulling you apart can actually bring you together. And whether you're in a relationship and you can come with your beloved to this, don't let it stop you if your beloved isn't quite yet as inspired or motivated as you are. It's we did this about 4 or 5 months ago, and we had a great variety of people. You know, people that were in relationship with their beloved, in relationship but their beloved didn't want to join them, and that was fine. And even single people that are getting ready for their next relationship. So it's a great process. We'll uncover what's the, there's over 20 forms of self-sabotage, and so we'll help you look at what are your forms of self-sabotage and what are the habits that are really going to make a difference in the long run. So it's not just one good idea here and there, but some real practices that we're going to show you how to integrate into your schedule and to your life, not something new to put in, but how to take what you're already doing in your own life and bring in some practices to take those complaints and turn it into connection instead.
Yeah, I like to say that if there's anything in your relationship that you feel is worth working on and having that in your relationship by the end of the summer, this is a total no-brainer way to actually have that. You know, we often think, oh, it'd be so great if we had this in our relationship or that in our relationship, and we just sit on that for months after month, year after year, without doing anything about it. And this is a great opportunity. It's an hour a week for 6 weeks.
Yeah, Raj, in the past, you say this is a great opportunity to dive in and invest in your relationship, but if you don't invest your time in it, it's going to take your time and demand it from you later on one way or another. So it's a great community. We'll be supporting each other, so join us, and this is at relationshipfunandgames.com with our 6-week course.
We'll also be hosting a webinar where we actually talk about the course and give you a lot of great fun tips.
And highlight the #1 reason relationships fail, what you can do about it if you want to know what the #1 killer is. Killer of connection.
Yeah, and we, if you attend that webinar, we also give you our ebook for free, and you'll learn all about the 6-week course. And we start that 6-week course next Thursday, and you can also register for it 1 week after our start. So jump right into that. We'd love to see you in that course, and your relationship will never be the same for a very positive way.
Absolutely. So Kevin and Lauren, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Raj, will you take it off the slide so I can see their beautiful faces and we can see their faces there? You just are a delight as a couple to be around, and I really appreciate your wisdom. You have a wonderful balance of bringing both the practicality of the realness of how it plays out in relationship, and at the same time, holding the research and all of the things that you've learned in your studies, from the energy patterns to the nonviolent communication. You're well studied and well practiced. So thanks for bringing all of that today.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
It's been great being with you.
Any closing thoughts you'd like to share with our audience before we wrap up? Anything pressing? Doesn't need to be. Just we've got you, and it's just always such a delight to hear from you. But any closing thoughts? But if not, that's fine too.
I've got one. I actually just had a coaching session not too long, like literally right before this interview, and there was something that came up for me there that I feel inspired to share. When you say well practiced, I think yes, and I feel very humbled. And one thing that came up for me on the session was like, there's kind of like these things that we learn like now, like from this interview. I kind of compare that to like, let's say we're in a boxing ring, and then it's like you go over to your coach in the corner and they whisper like these secrets or these practices in your ear. But that's not where the practice actually happens. It's when you go back into the middle of the ring and you're there with the person. And I don't want to use that analogy and make your partner the opponent, but like if you go back to the center of the ring and the first thing you do is your eyes glaze over and you get knocked out, then you haven't really practiced it in. So I think this is good, and the only way to really get the reps in is like in intimate contact with other. And so I guess I just wanted to share that frame for like the humility of it all, and knowing that where the rubber really meets the road is just in those little moments with your partner, and each one is just like a little chiseling into more integration.
So true, so true.
Well said. Yeah, I like to say a little bit of intention, attention, and action spread out over time goes a very long way, and it takes it out of the realm of work and into the realm of play if it's not this whole big monumental thing. So appreciate you emphasizing that. Yeah.
Appreciate
so
it.
Great to see you both. Yeah, great. And we'd love to see everyone next week, 5:30 Pacific time on Wednesday. Will be our last show of this season, the season of play,
Yes.
and we'll be looking at how to keep the sex dirty after.
Yes, with Eva and Krista. So join us then, and we just want you to have a playful, peaceful, passionate relationship. There's way too many people struggling out there. So if we can be of any support to you, it's our delight and honor, because you deserve a playful, peaceful, passionate relationship. It's totally possible, and as I like to say, wonderful is worth it. You know, life is too tough to do alone, yet a crappy relationship is worse than none at all, but a wonderful one is absolutely, absolutely worth it. So here's to yours. Bye-bye.
Night.